I'm Dan Ackerman. Welcome to your Whiteboard Wednesday. This weekend my wife threw a book at me. It was called Crenshaw, and she said, "You should read this." I like it when she throws books at me, most of the time. This one happens to be middle school literature. 245 pages, double spaced, lots of white space, plenty of empty spaces. 2 hours reading, maybe 3 at the outside. It's a great story about a young man in a family that's facing homelessness and struggling with the need to gather food. What does it mean to be homeless? And an imaginary friend shows up to help him through that process. Why did I give you a book report? Well, because I think it's time for leaders to go back to middle school. Middle school literature is great literature when we start to think about it from the perspective of developing us as leaders. Why is that? Let me think about story. One of the great things about middle school literature is they have to focus on the story. They only get 245 pages to unpack characters, unpack plot, get you through a story and a timeline in people's lives. Focusing on the story is incredibly important. Second reality is they have to be concise. I've read history books for middle school that had to do the same thing. 240 pages, double spaced, big font, and they had to tell me all about the battle of this or this Civil War person. I've seen adult reads that took 1,000 pages, single space, and a 10-point font to do the same thing. They have to be concise. They have to be focused on fewer words. And most of us don't think about the fact that they focus on broader ages, because sometimes a second grader picks up a middle school book and says, "I'd like to read it because I'm reading at the 6th grade age." And then there are 10th graders who are still reading at the 6th grade age who can't be offended by the same book. They can't be insulted. So it has to be available to a second grader and his or her emotions at the same time, not insulting to a 10th grader who might be reading at that level. Third thing, emotions. Great thing about middle school literature is it's not afraid of emotions. It has to touch on those hearts and emotions because middle schoolers are by definition engaged in emotions. It's who they are. And so it touches their hearts, and most of the time it brings them to the point where they often want to and have to face truths that they don't really want to face. And it does it with a heart of compassion and grace. So why is that important? Why do we think about that? Because I think most of us on Sunday morning want to hear those same things from our pastors in a sermon. And that's your Whiteboard Wednesday.